2 Samuel 19. Joab was told, the king is weeping and mourning over Absalom. So the victory of that day was turned to mourning as far as all the people were concerned. For the people heard on that day the king is grieving over his son. That day the people stole away to go to the city, the way people who are embarrassed steal away in flee. The king covered his face and cried out loud, "My son Absalom, Absalom, my son, my son." So Joab visited the king at his home. He said, "Today you have embarrassed all your servants who have saved your life this day, as well as the lives of your sons, your daughters, your wives, and your concubines. You seem to love your enemies and hate your friends, for you have as much as declared today that leaders and servants don't matter to you. I realize now that if Absalom were alive and all of us were dead today, it would be all right with you. So get up now and go out and give some encouragement to your servants. For I swear by the Lord that if you don't go out there, not a single man will stay here with you tonight. This disaster will be worse for you than the disaster that has overtaken you from your youth right to the present time." So the king got up and sat at the city gate. When all the people were informed that the king was sitting at the city gate, they all came before him. But the Israelite soldiers had all fled to their own homes. All the people through all the tribes of Israel were arguing among themselves, saying, "The king delivered us from the hand of our enemies. He rescued us from the hand of the Philistines. But now he has fled from the land because of Absalom. But Absalom, whom we anointed our king, has died in battle. So now why do we hesitate to bring the king back?" Then King David sent messengers to Zadok and Abiathar the priest, saying, "Tell the elders of Judah, why should you delay any further in bringing the king back to his palace, when everything Israel is saying has come to the king's attention? You are my brothers, my very own flesh and blood. Why should you delay any further in bringing the king back? Say to Amasa, are you not my flesh and blood? God will punish me severely if from this time on you are not the commander of my army in place of Joab." He won over the hearts of all the men of Judah as though they were one man. Then they sent word to the king, saying, "Return, you and all your servants as well." So the king returned and came to the Jordan River. Now the people of Judah had come up to Gilgal to meet the king and to help him cross the Jordan. Shimei, son of Gera the Benjamite, from Bahurim, came down quickly with the men of Judah to meet the king. There were 1,000 men from Benjamin with him, along with Ziba, the servant of Saul's household, and with him his 15 sons and 20 servants. They hurriedly crossed the Jordan within sight of the king. They crossed the fjord in order to help the king's household cross and to do whatever he thought appropriate. Now after he had crossed the Jordan, Shimei, son of Gera, threw himself down before the king. He said to the king, "Don't think badly of me, my lord, and don't recall the sin of your servant on the day when you, my lord king, left Jerusalem. Please don't call it to mind, for I, your servant, know that I sinned, and I have come today, as the first of all of the house of Joseph, to come down to meet my lord the king." Abishai, son of Zeruiah, replied, "For this should not Shimei be put to death. After all, he cursed the Lord's anointed." But David said, "What do we have in common? You sons of Zeruiah, you are like my enemies today. Should anyone be put to death in Israel today? Don't I know that today I am king over Israel?" The king said to Shimei, "You won't die." The king vowed on oath concerning this. Now Mephibosheth, Saul's grandson, came down to meet the king. From the day the king had left until the day he safely returned, Mephibosheth had not cared for his feet, nor trimmed his mustache, nor washed his clothes. When he came from Jerusalem to meet the king asked him, "Why didn't you go with me, Mephibosheth?" He replied, "My lord the king, my servant deceived me. I said, 'Let me get my donkey saddle so that I can ride on it and go with the king, for I am lame.' But my servant has slandered me to my lord the king. But my lord the king is like an angel of God. Do whatever seems appropriate to you." After all, there was no one in the entire house of my grandfather who did not deserve death from my lord the king, but instead you allowed me to eat at your table. What further claim do I have to ask the king for anything?" Then the king replied to him, "Why should you continue speaking like this? You and Ziba will inherit the field together." Mephibosheth said to the king, "Let him have the whole thing, my lord. The king has returned safely to his house." Now when Barzillai the Gileadite came down from Rogelim, he crossed the Jordan with the king so he could send him on his way from there. But Barzillai was very old, 80 years old, in fact, and he had taken care of the king when he stayed in Mahanaim, for he was a very rich man. So the king said to Barzillai, "Cross over with me, and I will take care of you while you are with me in Jerusalem." Barzillai replied to the king, "How many days do I have left in my life that I should go up with the king to Jerusalem? I am now 80 years old. Am I able to discern good and bad? Can I taste what I eat and drink? Am I still able to hear the voices of male and female singers? Why should I continue to be a burden to the Lord the king? I will cross the Jordan with the king and go a short distance. Why should the king reward me in this way? Let me return so that I may die in my own town near the grave of my father and my mother. But look, here is your servant Kimham. Let him cross over with the lord the king. Do for him whatever seems appropriate to you." The king replied, "Kimham will cross over with me, and I will do for him whatever I deem appropriate, and whatever you choose I will do for you." So all the people crossed the Jordan, as did the king. After the king had kissed him and blessed him, Barzillai returned to his home. When the king crossed over to Gilgal, Kimham crossed over with him. Now all the soldiers of Judah, along with half the soldiers of Israel, had helped the king cross over. Then all the men of Israel began coming to the king. They asked the king, "Why did our brothers, the men of Judah, sneak the king away and help the king and his household cross the Jordan? And not only him, but all of David's men as well." All the men of Judah replied to the men of Israel, "Because the king is our close relative. Why are you so upset about this? Have we eaten at the king's expense, or have we misappropriated anything for our own use?" The men of Israel replied to the men of Judah, "We have 10 shares in the king, and we have a greater claim on the king than you do. Why do you want to curse us? Weren't we the first to suggest bringing back our king?" But the comments of the men of Judah were more severe than those of the men of Israel. Yeah, Joab was doing right by David, always doing the right thing. Now he has disobeyed David. But Joab is acting not as a father, or he is acting as a military person who understands leaving Absalom alive will not be good for the king. And so he absolutely disobeys the order so that the king, and then we'll get to him coming in and being two-faced as his oldest time. A little bit of that is true, yeah. And everyone now wanting him king once there's victory. Okay. So the victory of that day was turned to mourning as far as the people were concerned, for the people heard that the king is grieving over his son. That day, the people stole away to go to the city, the way that people embarrassed stealing. So the people are embarrassed of the way the king is acting. The king is weeping loudly. He's crying for his son who has died. The king's like, this is the guy who is trying to overthrow your kingdom. Okay. Yes, I get it. It's your son, but, you're not behaving the right way for people. Joab visits the king. Joab has the power, has the clout, has the reliability to speak to the king as he chooses. Today you've embarrassed all your servants who have saved your life this day, as well as the lives of your sons, your daughters, your wives, and your concubines. So let me just clear this up for you, David. You have just said you would rather have your single son alive instead of your entire family alive and all your people alive. Okay? All of your men, all of your friends, you've just said we're your enemies. You hate us because your actual enemy you cry over and you claim to be your friend. So your daughters, your sons, your wives, your concubines, you really want all of them dead instead of Absalom. That is what you are portraying to everyone. So I now realize that if Absalom were alive and all of us were dead today, it would be all right with you. Like, now, I think he's going to extreme there. David probably would grieve and mourn over the rest of his family the way he is Absalom, but the point is clear. For I swear by the Lord that if, you didn't go out there, not a single man will still stay. So you need to go out now. You need to go out now. If you don't, we are leaving. We are going to abandon you. And whatever disaster happens, happens. We are going to leave. I'm going to lead them. We are going to leave. We are not going to follow you. You need to get up. You need to go out there. So the king got up and he sat at the city gate. When all the people were informed that the king was sitting at the city gate, all came before him. But the Israelite soldiers had fled to their own homes. So they didn't stick around. The soldiers, the Israelite soldiers, the ones who were coming against them, they didn't come. Those soldiers fled back home. All the people throughout all the tribes of Israel were arguing among themselves. The king delivered us from the hands of our enemies. He rescued us from the hands of the Philistines, but now he has fled the land because of Absalom. But Absalom, whom we anointed as our king, has died in battle. So now why do you hesitate to bring the king back? So now they're going, okay, we anointed Absalom. The king fled. The king had done some work for us. Should we bring the king back or not? Now that Absalom's dead, what do we do? Then the king sends messengers to the priests. Tell the elders of Judah, why should you delay further in bringing the king back to his palace when everything Israel is saying has come to the king's attention? So, in other words, Judah, why are you waiting? All of Israel is saying they put Absalom in place. They're not sure if they want me back. Judah, why are you delaying? You are my tribe. Why are you my brothers, my very own flesh and blood? Why should you delay any further in bringing the king back? So the king calls on Judah to bring him back. Now, this is interesting. Why wouldn't David just resume his kingship and force his way back? Because he's been dethroned by Absalom. He, in some ways, you could say, abdicated the throne by leaving Jerusalem. And so he needs to be reestablished by the people to put him back in power. There's a little bit of that. And he doesn't want to take by force. He wants to be brought back in. He wants restoration here. He doesn't just want conquest. He's also, think about what precedent he sets if he comes in by force. If he comes in by force, you set the precedent that you can take by force. Had Absalom been victorious, it sets the precedent that the king conquers by force, and when you have a claim to the throne, you can take the throne by force. So David is, I think, making sure he does not set a precedent to be able to do that. Lucius, the way the soldiers snuck into the town after the war reminds you of how U.S. soldiers that fought in Vietnam, with all the protests against the war, fighting over there. Some of them just, wasn't something to be proud of. Yeah. So there's the sneaking back, the not being seen. So the king is now trying to be reestablished. Why should you delay further? So say to Amasa, are you not my own flesh and blood? God will punish me severely if from this time you are not commander of my army in place of Joab. So he's now replacing Joab. He is saying to Amasa, you are going to be my new commander of the army. Magic Twilight, you came with the raid earlier. Well, welcome in. I think you might have posted a few things talking to others, and I didn't say hi to you. Welcome in. He won over the hearts of all the men of Judah as though they were one man. Then they sent word to the king, saying, "Return you and all your servants." So the king returned and came to the Jordan River. Now the people of Judah had come to Gilgal to meet the king and to help him cross. So they're coming to help him cross. Does he need people to help him cross? It's probably a big procession and you want to see. And maybe they need help. I don't know, but it's the people of Judah. So in other words, we need to think of this as they are meeting him there to bring him in as the king. So there's the reestablishment there. And Shimei, the son of Gera, the Benjamite from Bahurim, came down quickly with the men of Judah to meet the king. So if you remember, Shimei was the one who was cursing the king, who's a descendant of, or a relative of Saul. There were 1,000 men from Benjamite with him, along with Ziba, the servant of Saul's household, and with his 15 sons and 20 servants. So Ziba has come down. His sons and his servants have come down. Men of Saul's household, or his relatives, Benjamin, have come down. They hurriedly crossed the Jordan within sight of the king. They crossed the fjord in order to help the king's household cross and do whatever they thought appropriate. So Ziba is again trying to gain favor with the king. Now, after he had crossed the Jordan, Shimei, son of Gera, threw himself down before the king. He said to the king, "Don't think badly of me, by my lord, and don't recall the sin your servant on this day when you, your lord, the king, left Jerusalem. Please don't call it to mind, for your servant know that I sinned and have come today as the first of all the house of Joseph," northern kingdom, so to speak, "to come down to meet my lord the king." So Shimei cursing the king on his way of fleeing, on his way back, has come to repent. Abishai, son of Zeruiah, replied, "For this should not Shimei be put to death. After all, he cursed the Lord's anointed." So notice how he brings this up. David would not bring his hand to strike the Lord's anointed. This man was cursing the Lord's anointed. Shouldn't something happen to him? But David said, "What do we have in common, you sons of Zeruiah?" Same guy, I believe, on the way out that was saying, "Hey, should we go kill him?" And I was like, no. "You are like my enemies today. Should anyone be put to death in Israel today? Don't I know that today I am king over Israel?" The king said to Shimei, "You won't die." The king vowed an oath concerning this. So we have a restoration of the one who cursed the king as he comes back. Now, Mephibosheth, Saul's grandson, came down to meet the king. From the day the king had left until he safely returned, Mephibosheth had not cared for his feet, nor trimmed his mustache, nor washed his clothes. So in other words, Mephibosheth, when the king is gone, is doing what he can to mourn and fast and on behalf of the king. So it's a physical demonstration of his devotion to the king. So when he came to Jerusalem to meet the king asked him, "Why didn't you go up with me, Mephibosheth?" So he doesn't. He wants to hear for himself. The king wants to hear for himself, not just make the assumptions of what Ziba had to say true. "My lord the king, my servant deceived me. I said, 'Let me get my donkey saddled so I can ride on it and go with the king, for I am lame.' But my servant has slandered me to the lord the king. But my lord the king is like an angel of the Lord." So the angel of the Lord, if we're using that, he is the one who is going to be the one to bring about the works of God. He's like a messenger of God, doing what God does or wants done. "Do whatever seems appropriate to you." So you are like a messenger from God, so you do what's appropriate. "After all, there was no one in the entire house of my grandfather who did not deserve death from my lord the king." So does he mean that figuratively? Yes. Does he mean that literally? No, he certainly couldn't be, because Jonathan, his father, would not have deserved death. So, "But instead you allowed me to eat at your table." So in other words, perhaps what he's saying is, the remnants of my grandfather, we all deserve death after you were established at king, but you did not do what is customary. You established me at your very own table. What further claim do I have to ask? the king for anything. I have no claim to ask the king for anything. I get to eat at your table. You showed kindness." Then the king replied to him, "Why should you continue speaking like this? You and Ziba will inherit the field together." So like, no, you don't need to keep doing this. You're going to have land. Mephibosheth said to the king, "Let him have the whole thing. My lord the king has returned safely to his house." Like, I don't need the land. I want the king back. Now, it doesn't say anything further here. Does he actually split the property? Does Ziba get the property? What happens? I think there might be a slightly different version of this in Chronicles, but we want to go with what's here in front of us. So we're getting these events of people coming to the king. So let's move to the next one. Now, when Barzillai the Gileadite had come down from Rogelim, he crossed the Jordan with the king so he could send him on his way there. But Barzillai was very old, 80 years old, in fact, and he had taken care of the king when he stayed in Mahanaim, for he was a very rich man. So the king said to Barzillai, "Cross over with me, and I will take care of you while you are with me in Jerusalem." So Barzillai is taking care of the king. He's a rich man when he's in the city, when he's in Mahanaim, and now the king wants to repay him. The king wants to repay him for his hospitality and for his care. By come, I will take care of you now. But he replies, "I'm old." And I love how he does this. Am I able to discern good and bad? Can I taste what I eat and drink? Can I still hear the voices of female and male singers? Why should I continue to be a burden to my lord the king? So in other words, like, you're going to give me some fine, great delicacies. I got like no sense of taste and smell, no sense of hearing. No matter what you bring me to delight me with, I won't enjoy it and appreciate it the way it should be. Like, I have lack of ability to appreciate what you're going to give me. I mean, I need nothing fancy, and I won't appreciate it. I will go with you a short distance. Why should the king reward me in this way? Let me return so I may die in my own town, in the grave of my father and my mother. So, like, I'm going to be around not very long, so let me die. But here is your servant Kimham. Let him cross over with my lord the king. Do to him whatever you seems appropriate. The king replied, "Kimham will cross over with me, and I will do whatever I deem appropriate." So in other words, give Kimham everything you would have given me. So Kimham is my substitute to receive all those goods and services, I guess. All right, so let's look. We are in 2 Samuel 19. I wonder what Kimham means. What verse are we in? Sorry, wrong one. Let's go with 38. Kimham. It's a weird name. And they're spelling it with a CH. Okay, that just tells me the Hebrew letter, so no big deal there. All right, they're longing. All right, so it just shows up here. And Jeremiah also becomes a name of a city later. All right, so we just have Kimham show up in this story, and then he disappears. All right, so weird name. Hello. Wonderful. Kimham. So all the people cross over with the king. After the king had kissed him and blessed him, Barzillai returned to his home. When the king crossed over Gilgal, Kimham crossed over with him. Now all the soldiers of Judah, along with half the soldiers of Israel, had helped the king cross. So we have Israel soldiers come as well. We only had Judah before. Now we have some of Israel there. Then all the men of Israel began coming to the king. They asked the king, "Why did our brothers, the men of Judah, sneak the king away and help the king and his household cross the Jordan, and not only him, but all of David's men as well?" So now Israel is calling out Judah. Judah was acting alone. Remember, the king invited the Judah to act alone. You're my relatives. Why did you delay? So what if Israel isn't bringing me back yet? You need to come and get me. All the men of Judah replied to the men of Israel, "Because the king is our close relative. Why are you upset about this? Have we eaten at the king's expense, or have we misappropriated anything for our own use?" So, in other words, he's our close relative. We acted as we should. So we did nothing wrong, and we did all of this at our own expense. This was not because we were getting perks from the king. We've gotten no perks from the king. The men of Israel replied, "We have 10 shares in the king, and we have a greater claim on David than you do." We got 10 shares. You guys got 2. Benjamin and Judah, you got two. We got 10. We have a bigger share in the king. Why do you want to curse us? So in other words, why are you cursing us by taking the blessing away? Weren't we the first to suggest bringing the king back? So you heard us talking about it and you did it? Like, well, yes, we were talking about it, but we intended to do it. But the comments of the men of Judah were more severe than those of the men of Israel. So there's some bickering and fighting and who knows, name calling, whatever else might happen along the way there.